Greetings. Welcome to the Rogue Cook. Today we're going to do poached salmon with a Melba sauce. A Melba sauce is a reduction of Merlot wine or Pinot Noir, I prefer Merlot, and raspberry jam. So we already have our salmon panned up, beautiful sockeye salmon wild caught, and the question is, how are we going to poach it? Poaching technically is boiling it in water like you would a poached egg. Can be done, doesn't turn out too well. In addition, you can poach in a steamer. You don't really see steamers much in residential kitchens, although you can get them, but I seriously doubt most people have them. So exactly how are we going to poach the salmon? Well, I have my handy dandy bread pan, and I have my little tea kettle with hot water in it right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the salmon on the top shelf of the oven, which is already preheated at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, our all-purpose temperature, and I'm going to put the steaming water on the shelf below. Technically, no, it's not a poach, but the effect will be close enough for what we want to do. Before we put the salmon in the oven, what we want to do is salt it very, very lightly. The idea of the salt is not for any kind of flavor. The salt is there to open the pores of the salmon, allow the Melba sauce flavors to merge with the salmon, and also to enhance flavors, the same as an alcohol or a Caspian would, certain Caspians. So, I have my handy dandy sea salt, and I'm just going to very, very lightly. And this happens to be that Celtic sea salt I like, and it's almost like a kosher rock salt in texture. So if I was not going to have the steam present in the oven, I would either make a little bit of a brine and mildly marinate the salmon, or I would take the time to rub it in. But the steam in the oven will help this to penetrate and merge. All right. Clean as you go, clean as you go, clean as you go. Okay. So first I'm going to stick my salmon in the oven, get it situated. And I'm going to take my hot steaming water in my little bread pan. Doesn't take a whole lot. I'm going to slide this onto the second shelf below it. Cross my fingers and hope for the best. How long should we poach it? Difficult to say. A lot of variables. Size of the oven, how much fish you have, how efficient the oven is. Generally, I hope no more than 15 minutes. If you have a good heat and a good amount of moisture, probably 7 minutes. You don't have to concern yourself overly, checking the time, don't have to concern yourself overly with how thoroughly it's poached, as long as there's a good amount of poaching cooking to it. Because what we're going to do now is we're going to make the Melba sauce, and then we're going to pull the fish back out, put the Melba sauce on it, and clear the oven of the steam, because the steam will make the Melba sauce go icky, and then we'll put it back in there and finish it off. I don't really concern myself overly about getting a fish really, really well done. Stop and think about it. A well done fish is dry, dusty, nasty. Okay? How many dishes out there are made with raw or semi-cooked fish? You have ceviche, where the fish and the seafood is cooked with the lemon juice. You have poke, where soy sauce takes care of the cooking. And sashimi is all raw fish. In sushi, which actually means to roll, sushi is not raw fish. In sushi, Many of the fishes are raw, but not all. It depends on the dish. Point being, although I want it to be nice and flaky, I want it to be tender and moist, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. If it doesn't cook all the way through, it'll be fine. Alright, so next, my handy dandy burner, and I am intentionally using one of my cast iron saucepans, fry pans for those down here in the south, because first of all, the cast iron will disperse the heat very evenly. Keep your temperatures low. It's not delicate, but we're dealing with a lot of sugars and alcohol. That alcohol is going to evaporate very quickly. All right? Keep your pan dry. You don't want a lot of grease in it. Okay. I'm going to give this a little bit to warm up. Also for my flame to make up its mind where it wants to be. While we're doing that, always remember your quality control. Got to make sure my Merlot is good enough for the dish. Use the best ingredients you can afford. Focus on your quality control. Lovely. Notice it had a screw top. There's only a certain amount of cork comes from an oak tree. It's a cork oak, and they're becoming extinct. So, yeah, we all love to have a cork in our wine. There's something very proper, sophisticated, sexy about it. But, well, for example, Lidman's is a very, very good quality wine out of Australia, and they recently switched to screw tops. It works just fine. Oh, I opened this one over a week ago for another dish, and it's been sitting in the refrigerator closed. It tastes like it was just open, like the cork was just pulled. Okay, be careful not to get your pan too hot. We're coming up on too hot here. All right, you take your raspberry jam, and in this situation, a little's going to go a long way. Yeah, that's too hot. All right, no problem. Pull it off. These things will cool as fast as they heat up. Well, that's not true. But in any case, I'm here to show you what to handle when you have little minor setbacks, like that one. All right, pull it off the heat. Let that sit there. Throw a little wine in there. See, it's cooling off very nicely. Another thing about cast iron is it is extremely forgivable. I wanted to reduce the jam a little bit before I hit it with the wine because the wine evaporates so quickly, which is part of why it's here, because it enhances the flavors. When the alcohol evaporates quickly, it draws the flavors together. All right, see, no drama. All right. Now, problem with the butane burner, I love these butane burners, but just like the cast iron, it takes a few minutes for the flame to stabilize. If I were doing this off camera, I would have lit the butane burner for a few seconds, brought the cast iron to it, adjusted the flame just as low as I could have gotten it, and then given the cast iron a few minutes to warm up. That's all right. No harm, no foul. This is going to be beautiful. I think a half a bottle will be fine. That'll give me enough to make some raspberry teriyaki later on for a pork roast. And now it appears that my heat is not high enough. But as I said, because of the way cast iron works, I'm not touching nothing. It's nice and low. Just let it go. I've also done this with, this is I think it's a seedless, yeah, this happens to be a seedless raspberry jam. I've done it with the regular seeded jams, and it's wonderful either way. The jam with the seeds in it will give a little bit different presentation because you can see the seeds. Your final dish will be prettier if you're into that sort of thing. But the advantage of seedless is you're going to have a nice glaze looking sauce, and that is going to give you a different presentation. It'll give you a base, and then you can garnish it. You can leave it alone, or you can garnish it as you wish. Say, sprinkle on some roasted sesame seeds. You know, cut up some fresh raspberries to go on top. It's endless. It's all a matter of what you like. This looks beautiful. You may wonder why I'm using a rubber spatula to do this. Well, old habits die hard. In exposition cooking, we used to use these when we were making omelets on the line, and pastas. But also, because the heats are fairly low in this, it won't damage it. There's some pretty tough silicone they make these days. Okay, all my raspberry has now been incorporated, and I'm getting a very fine simmer. So I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna back off and just let it simmer a little bit and reduce. It will reduce fairly quickly because of the sugars and the alcohol. Yeah, I believe I'm going to have plenty volume-wise. So, let's see. I better get it. Sometimes I don't think all at once. Yeah, I don't know if you can see from there, but it's already starting to thicken up. Now I think I want to expedite it a little bit, so I'm going to zap it with just a little bit more raspberry. I actually thought I would be needing more ingredients than this. It's been a while since I've made it, and the last time I made it with the seeded one. Okay. I got too many toys. Clean as you go, clean as you go. Now, what are some of the different things you can do as this is making? You know, I'm showing you the basis here. What other ingredients could you maybe add to it? Well, you could toss in roasted sesame seeds. Let's see, what else might work? You could get a nice offsetting herb. All right, this is going to be fairly sweet. Let's say you had some fresh tarragon. You might throw a little fresh tarragon in here. It will give you a, well, tarragon is sort of licorice, but also not, bitter is not the right word, but it's a counter flavor to this. The only thing that comes to mind is bitter. But it does have a licorice flavor in the same manner that your oreganos and your basils will, basils, in different ways. Okay. I know it's not thick enough, but I want to see where we stand. Oh, another thing I was thinking of, you can also crack some black pepper and put it in here. And I figured out something last week that is kind of interesting to me. The pepper grinder I have in the house is one of those little sealed from the store things. I also have, you know, big industrial jars of peppercorn that I usually use for marinades. Well, I wanted some fresh cracked, but the pepper grinder ground it too fine for what I wanted. Well, I have my mortar and pestle. So I went ahead and I threw whole peppercorns in my mortar and pestle and banged and ground, and it was beautiful. So as I learn, I will pass it on to you. Mortar and pestle grinds up black pepper real nice. Okay. Be careful, it's hot. Actually, might hit that with a little bit more wine. Tastes good, but The raspberry is a little overpowering, but that being said, the wine will not really be tasted in this Melba sauce. Here again, it unites flavors and assists in the reduction. It takes the edge. That's what I was trying to think of. It takes the edge off the raspberry. It makes the raspberry a little less sweet. But I'm more concerned with consistency than I am anything else, and I think we're about there. Let me check my fish. It's been about 13 minutes. Where's my nib? Oh, nice. Very, very nice. Okay, let me pull it out and take a look at it. As I said, I know it's not done. That's not the point of it. Ooh, but it's very, very, very close. Let me get it over here. Let that just keep doing its thing. You can see how the fish is almost done. It's very wet. It's poached. And the little bit of rock salt I had on top of it has melted into it. It's absolutely gorgeous. Now let it rest a minute while this is finishing. See if I can lower this a little bit more. It's working real hard here. I don't want to burn it. It's just like burning candy. Matter of fact, that's close enough. Residual heat of cast iron is wild, so we're done here. Let me get my pan of water out of here. Like I said, you want a dry oven to finish this. Looks like I'll be having a cup of tea when we're done. So I'm going to leave the oven cracked. Even though it's on, I'm going to let it crack open a few minutes and let that moisture get out of there. I don't want moisture on the fish anymore. At this point, this needs to caramelize over the top. Okay. I wanted to use the spatula to apply it, but as you may know, when sugars cook, they get hotter. If you can hear that, I apologize. It's my phone in the background and it can just ring. Forgot to turn the ringer off. Okay, what was I saying? So this is so hot right now that I'm on the edge of melting my spatula. The silicons are good, but only to a point. All right. I think my oven's dry. Give me a nice spoon here. And let me get this in the camera better. Everything's hot here. Oh, and it smells. The difference, and when you poach a salmon like this, the smell is very subtle. You know, salmon has a very strong flavor when it cooks. This way, it's very subtle. All I want to do, it's almost gelatinous, this sauce is. And you want a nice coverage, but if you don't get the whole fish, that's fine. You're going to have some run over. The cleanup is very easy because of the amount of moisture when you poached it. It's okay. It's not going to burn to the bottom of the pan. It's not going to be in the oven very much longer either. Probably just a minute or two, actually. Well, closer to 5. But the poaching worked better than I planned. This is the first time I tried this in my own oven. I do it on the boats all the time. But commercial ovens are much different. They all have the convection fans. Some of the older models, you can't really turn them off. And it gives you an irregular heat. What we call spotty. That worked out really well. As the old Stuart used to say, I guess it's better to be lucky than good. Now, yep, I'm glad I left it alone. That wine came back and melded out nicely. Okay. Realistically, I could leave it like this, especially since this one is going to a customer as it is, and it'll be reheated at a later time. That being said, I'm a stickler to get her done. Sorry, Larry. So I'm going to put it back in the oven for a few minutes and caramelize it. Basically, at this time, I'll start a little bit of cleaning and let it finish up. Okay. So, in conclusion, little bit of salt on your fish. You can use Melba sauce on anything. It's actually wonderful on ice cream, obviously, you know, red wine and raspberry jam. But you don't have to use salmon. Orange roughy would be good, but with an orange roughy, it's very thin, it's very delicate, the cooking time would be very fast. I would probably use the Melba sauce as a condiment as opposed to caramelizing in the oven. Trying to waste a few minutes so I don't have to add something to the backside of this video. What else can I tell you while we wait? It won't be long. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, cast iron cleaning. So here I have my cast iron pan with all this nasty sugary stuff in it. How do I clean it? Easy peasy. The pan is still hot. Everything cleans better when it's hot. Make sure your water is as hot as it can be. What we have here in the house is a short bristle nylon brush. We only use it for the cast iron. That way it's not contaminated with any kind of soaps. All I'm going to do, now you can see all the jelly, all the ick in there, all the sugars. Give it a good rinse, get in here with the brush. And would you look at that? Now what? Okay. Take you a paper towel. Wipe the water out of there. Take a vegetable oil, preferably not canola. I would avoid olive oil because olive oil is very close to the fruit state. Of the olive. It's not processed as much as a vegetable oil, or in this case I use corn oil. What I mean by that is if you do it regularly with the olive oil but you don't use your cast iron all the time, the olive oil will spoil in the metal while the cast iron sits on the shelf. And it smells horrible and it's not too healthy for you. So here I have a little corn oil, a couple of drops. Now, this is not seasoning. I mean, the oil is going to season it, but this is not how you season the pan. This is just how you clean it. Couple drops of a vegetable oil, peanut oil, corn oil, they're all fine. Grapeseed oil, wonderful. All right, and then you just rub it in. Rub it into the metal. And that pan is clean and ready to use again. Beautiful. All right. For those of you that think that there's some sort of possible contamination here, it honestly doesn't matter because, as I said earlier, you're putting it back on the heat and you're warming it up before you use it. So if there were, which there's not, it would all be killed anyway. I mean, I used olive oil for years before I realized that the stink I was smelling was coming from it. Figured that one out on my own. Anti-bright, it only took me a couple years. Also, you notice, another reason that jam and everything came out of there, and my cast irons clean like a whistle all the time. And a big part of this is the fact that we grind our own meats. We make our own sausages. All of our products that we eat at home, you see, it caramelized on the top. Now, this is a little soupier than I would like it, but if I were serving it up right now, all that would stay in the pan. When it gets to where it's going after it's cooled down, it's going to be a beautiful presentation. All this jellied around it, when they go to warm it up again, it's going to be lovely. Okay, so as I was saying, we grind our own meats. We make our own sausages. I make pepperoni. I make some fantastic chorizo, thanks to Simply Mama Cooks. Go to Simply Mama Cooks website. If I think about it, I'll put it down here. Whenever I do anything south of the border style, my tortillas, corn, flour, whatever they are, all of that stuff, I follow her recipes. She's here in Texas, I believe. Fantastic channel, Simply Mama Cooks. Don't know her, never met her. This is not paid advertisement. I just think she's wonderful. But chorizo, I make pepperoni, I make linguiça, I make 2 types of breakfast sausage, all these things. And we realized after we started to make these at home, because we use very, very little salt. We live a salt-free lifestyle. And there's no preservatives, no chemicals. If I use a nitrate, I use a celery, a beer, something like that. I use sea salt, I use very little. We noticed right away that the pan's cleaned up fantastically. Okay, I won't bend your ear anymore. Thanks for stopping by The Road Cook. I hope you enjoyed making poached salmon with Melba sauce. Y'all have a wonderful day. Eat well and be good to each other.